Hello, my lively lovelies, and welcome to Alive with Aaliyah. I'm Aaliyah. So, as I have been talking about doing, this is the video on acceptance and idealism. And I see myself as an INFJ, and if you're into typology, you know that that's an idealist type. And basically, my whole life, I've just really seen, I've had a lot of vision of potential futures, goals that people can achieve. I see the best in people, that sort of thing. And while that always seemed like a really great part of my personality, it came with a lot of challenges. I definitely noticed that I would frequently focus more on someone's potential than who they actually were in that moment. And that caused me a lot of grief and pain over the years. And I think I even hurt other people because I put pressure on them to grow into something they weren't yet. And it's kind of almost like a criticism in a way, because you say, oh, well, you have these personality traits, and if you just did X, Y, Z, you could achieve so much, you could be so happy, you could have so much self-esteem, let me help you, let me support you. When you point out someone's room for growth, right, you're also telling them that they have issues, right? So that can be hurtful. So over the years, I've changed and adapted and thought a lot about this. And before I started dating my now husband, I dated someone who had just come out of a relationship, and he was very similar to me. He was like another INFJ, and he was really wanting to help his ex, and she had all this potential, and he was so attached to this person she never actually was, but that he saw her being, he saw as this possibility for her. And I thought it was so interesting because that person was never real, and he was grieving her even though she never actually attained that persona, and he wanted to help her reach that. And seeing someone else do it was kind of the kick in the pants I needed, and I stopped doing it. And it was only a few months later that I started dating my now husband, and I always knew intellectually it's so important to accept and love people as who they are. And in addition to that, for me with my husband, it was so important to fall in love with someone who, was a good person, who had it together. He was already what I wanted. And if he wants to grow and everything and be a better person, that's fantastic. I support him in that. But I'm not here to shape him. I'm not here to guide him. I'm here in a support role. And that's it. And I've also done that in my other relationships where, if someone wants to talk to me about goals they have or growth they want to achieve, issues that they're struggling with, I'm there, right? I'm here to support you, and you can bounce ideas off me, but I'm not going to do what I was doing before and try to explain to you how I think you could be, what your best self is, and to show you the path to get there, because it's about being your best self, not what I think your best self is. So for me, I think this was a major breakthrough and allowed me to have much healthier relationships. Obviously I ended up getting married, and I'm 38, almost 39, so we got married, we're coming up on a 3-year anniversary. So, I never got to that point, right, in my 20s or early 30s or what have you, because I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I think that level of maturity, that realization was really important for me to be able to have a healthier relationship dynamic. So yay, great, right? Accepting people as they are and taking my idealism and kind of putting it in the shelf in relationships kind of thing. So that's great. What's the problem? Well, I think in this process, it's so hard to just look at things in isolation, right? My idealism is very widespread. I have a lot of idealism in terms of what I see for humanity and our planet and that sort of thing, or at least I have had that. And as I worked more on learning acceptance, I think it was important for me to take a more realistic look at society and current events, and that's been really hard as an idealist to try to look at those things as they are, right? I mean, like, I'm a Star Trek fan. I like Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, some sort of utopia where the nations of man all work together and are unified as one and out in the universe exploring, you know, not just space but science and the mind. That's yes, let's do that. I'm on board, right? And as much as I can have those kinds of dreams and visions, that's not what I'm seeing in the news, right? That's not the path that we're on right now as a people, as a society, as a culture. We have serious problems. We have systemic racism. We have environmental problems, climate change, violence, income inequality, so much inequality, right? And so for me, this has been painful, this has been difficult, and I don't have the answer right now for what I'm supposed to do with trying to look at the world as it is and balance that with my idealism, because with relationships, you know, with each individual in my interpersonal relationships, it was important to choose to be around people that are good for me to be around, that are psychologically healthy enough, that they're not hurting me, right? And that I have these good people, these positive influences in my life. So that was like, you know, a decision I made, and a decision I make with the people I deal with. And then, of course, accepting them as they are and, you know, being there to support them if they do want help with growth. We're already starting in a really good place, right? And I can't apply the same type of thinking to society at large, because you don't get to choose society. This is it. This is you land where you land, you know? And admittedly, I landed in a really cushy part of society personally. You know, I was born into privilege. I still have privilege, and I don't have to deal with a lot of the bad parts of society. It's more stuff I'm reading about, or I'm understanding, or happening, or I'm observing. The kinds of things that are happening to me personally relate around my health and that sort of thing. And even then, my privilege gets me through a lot of that, and I understand that. So I guess my challenge is to find ways to keep my idealism alive to a degree that I can use it to find purpose and create purpose in terms of trying to help society, but, you know, looking and having acceptance of how things that they are. It's really hard for me because to me it seems really bad, very catastrophic. The more I read about climate change, the more it sounds very much like an existential crisis within my lifetime. You know, it's very dire, it's very extreme. And I feel the pain every time we have a mass shooting. Like I get hit hard by that stuff, and I'm really trying to not shut down, not be overwhelmed, to pay attention, to stay engaged, and to take action, right? And I think for me, previously, taking action was my primary coping mechanism, right? I did volunteer work. Volunteer work made me feel like, hey, at least I'm trying to do something. But it's been harder for me to be involved lately because of my health challenges. Even though I've done quite a bit of volunteer work in the past and have figured out adaptations over time, I did have to step down from things. And the last volunteer work I did, that was like fall of last year, and it was postcards. It was very, very minimal. So I think, maybe finding more ways to find that healthy way of taking action might help me feel less hopeless in terms of the state of the world, and help me continue to look at the reality of the situation while keeping hope alive. The other part I wanted to talk about with idealism and acceptance is around my health, since I was just touching on that too. There is a lot out there about, power of attraction, positive thinking. If you have positive thinking, you can cure your health problems, kind of thing, or the power of prayer, that sort of thing. And people talk to me about that a lot when they find out that I have health problems. And it's not that simple. You can't just wish health problems away, right? But positive thinking is so helpful for coping, and power of prayer. I actually have a crazy story about that. So it's not that I discount those things. I think it's just important to have balance and look at things with both realism and hope, right? And so idealism and hope I'll kind of start to lump together when it comes to the health side of things, because it's very important for me to have hope that I can see improvements with time, that there might be more viable treatments for me, but it's extremely important that I have acceptance of where I'm at each day and that I plan accordingly. If I go around just positive thinking without accepting where I am, I'm going to get myself into trouble. I can't just try walking like a mile, because realistically, if I do that, I'm probably going to faint somewhere down the line, and then heaven knows what happens to me, right? So if I take precautions and I'm realistic, I can prevent myself from getting into bad situations. But I have to have that hope and that idealism, that I can enjoy each day, that I can create joy, and that I can continue to pursue things that heal me, whether they're to go to my doctor or things that are psychologically healing for me, or spiritually healing for me. So to me, I have to have that balance. I can't swing too far into positive thinking, because that's ignoring the reality of the situation. And if I focus too much on the reality of the situation and acceptance, then I lose some of that, that whimsy, that magical thinking that inspires me and helps me to keep going, and not just keep going, but be excited, right? Be excited about possibility, about potential. And for me, that is huge. I get excited about possible treatments. I get excited about going and exploring out in my garden and, observing animals and things like that, because those are the things that are healing for me and make me feel grounded. So, as with all things, balance. And like I said there, for the kind of middle section, with my global view, my worldwide view on society, that's the area where I really need work. And to be idealistic enough to be able to have a vision of ways that we can get through this as a society, to get through all of these struggles, so, to not go so far into acceptance that I get grief-stricken by the tragedy of it all. And I think it's hard for me because I had adapted so much to taking action through volunteer work, and I've been so tired. It's really hard for me sometimes to figure out action type items for myself, because I'm spending so much downtime working on my healing and focusing on my healing. And you know what? That's great, right? It's super important for me to listen to my body, to rest, and to put energy into my healing, because I need to be able to use energy on myself if I'm going to have any energy to use outwardly, right? And it's hard because I feel selfish, I feel self-absorbed, and I feel guilty because I'm not doing more to help others, and I'm doing so much to work on my own healing. But the kind of messaging I repeat to myself frequently is, when I'm working on my own healing, that's me refilling my cup, that's restoring myself such that I will have more available to share with others. And sometimes I'm not going to have anything extra, and I'm going to have to I would only have enough for myself, and I'm just struggling. And that's okay. Those are the times where I scrape up all that love and caring and compassion from wherever I can in myself. I send it right back at myself because I need that, and that gets me through a lot. And I'm so thankful to myself for being there for myself. And it's important for me to be patient and to be accepting of myself when I don't feel like I'm doing enough, because I'm doing a lot. And okay, I'm gonna have a little episode. Ooh. Okay. And that's how we know it's time to wrap it up. Oh goodness, I even get tired talking to the camera. What are you gonna do? So yes, we've been talking about idealism and acceptance and finding balance. And thank you so much for joining me. I want you to, I want to express how thankful I am to be here and to have made it today, and how thankful I am that you're here and you made it today. Congratulations, you did it. All right, so this has been Alive with Aaliyah. I'm Aaliyah. Please click like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and live in love with life.